Let's start right here.
Thank you, sir. I'm wondering why the timing and why did you do it now and not the end of the season?
Well, we didn't qualify for the playoffs last Friday. Team had another game on the road, flew back. I wanted to be able to have everyone here together. And so yesterday was the first time I could do the schedule. I could meet with Ernie and then Tommy and Scott and then players and staff. But that was the logistics behind it.
But not end of the season?
Well, I wanted to competitively, there's lots of jobs open. There'll probably be more jobs open in the off season. And so once you make that decision, and it was a very binary decision, we set what our goals were. We didn't meet our goals. I had to make that decision.
You say, obviously, it's going to be competitive to go after the top candidates in a GM search. What do you think are the top selling points that you'll have to pitch someone on this organization?
Well, I think Washington, D.C. and our fan base is fantastic. I think our investment infrastructure is second to none. And I think people believe in our ownership group. We have the most diverse, one of the most powerful ownership groups, and we're very, very focused on trying to make everything that we touch world class. And I don't think we will have any doubts that this is the best, important, open job in all of sports right now. David?
You've talked about using best practices going forward, and you've been around the league a while now. I'm sure you have some ideas on your own about what constitutes a good organization, top down, or maybe bottom up. What are some of the things that you value and that you think are going to be important going forward?
I'd like a next generation, more collaborative environment where I can hear lots of voices. Traditionally in organizations, especially one that's as large as ours is, you have divisions, if you will, and there's a hierarchy, and I have always and continue to respect the hierarchy. When I'm involved, that's not a good sign. And, one of my personal concerns was breaking respect. I didn't ever want to break respect. And so for the next 3 weeks, I'm not going to be externally focused at all. All of the focus is what have I done right and what have I done wrong with our organization. And the only way I'm going to find that out is talking to people. And sometimes I talk too much. I have to listen more. And we have really, really talented people throughout our organization. I have to listen to them. And then after we do that and we see the talent that's within, then we can really do a smart job on what are we looking for? What do we need as a leader to coalesce all of that? And that we can tap into a collective intelligence instead of just kind of, one star player, and that's how we're going to win. And I think that's very, very prevalent in now organizations, that you have to have a more collaborative, extended environment than just a pure hierarchy. Dave?
Isn't that similar to the process? Because obviously, with the Capitals, you had to make a decision about a general manager who's been with you a long time. It sounds like it's a similar process you went through at that time, where you looked in first and tried to figure out what's right, what's wrong before you went out.
Yes, it is similar. And I've come to see where there are similarities and then big, big differences between the NHL and the NBA. So I have to force myself sometime to not have that muscle memory and say it's just like this. I'll tell you one place that it's different. I didn't make an announcement, and the next day there was people saying, here's who the contenders are and here's the lead people, when there is no list. There is no discussions. There are no thoughts. I've told everyone, and I'll say it again. This happened in a very, very thoughtful way. And we have a process, and that process will be introspection first. I owe it to the organization. I owe it to my partners. I owe it to the fans to find out what is going on throughout the organization, where there's strengths, where there's weaknesses. And then we can decide who would be the best candidates. And then once we know that, and we are bringing in a third party they have great gifts and great background in sports on a global basis, and they'll be able to help us to create that too. And we all want to be very, very open-minded on what we need for the next period of time. And probably the best news is that we haven't had a lot of general managers. We want people to understand that ownership sets strategy and vision and what the culture should be and budget. And then the head and the organization really focuses on the execution and the output. And so I want to continue that. That's why I think this will be a great job, that we are loyal. If people are executing the vision and the culture and have output, that they know that it's a fair and good environment.
Obviously, you guys missed your goals this year, but how much of this decision to let go of Ernie factored into the summer, where you guys do have big decisions to make with free agents and kind of set a direction?
It was, as a leader of any big company, you have to have very, very clear goals and objectives. And, we had made the playoffs 4 or 5 years. We had 3 players who were max. Dwight, if you consider, was also a max player. And we had a new practice facility. And I was in the tax for the second time. Everyone seemed to be healthy. There was great optimism. And we are the worst team in the league in terms of man games lost from our starting 5, 30 out of 30. But I said, no excuses. That was the culture that we had created, and that we had a long-term plan, draft, develop well, trades, free agency. And we had the 4th highest payroll coming into the year. It was very, very binary on what would happen this year. And we didn't meet any of our goals. And so that was what drove it. It wasn't a cumulative effect. It was, is there anything else that we can do? I can't manufacture luck. I can't manufacture health. And we're 30 out of 30 in terms of man games missed. We could have used that as an excuse, but I said no excuses.
Would you be willing to go into the tax next season?
I'd be willing to do whatever the right strategy is and make the right investments for us to have a great team. I'll also note that one of the greatest statements I've ever heard was from a coach that I had to fire previously at the Caps, who said, just because you pay them more money doesn't make them a better player. And there's like a real genius behind that. And so I know that whoever is coming in is astute and understands what the salary cap is and where the tax is, and we will make very, very smart decisions. But we've proven that we're not shy about spending money. I just want to make sure, we all want to make sure that it's part of a strategic plan, not to appease or try to, have like a sugar high or some sort.
Tim, I just want to make sure I understand the timeline. After these 3 weeks of introspection, then you will have a list, or then you will start interviewing candidates for the job?
Don't know. I don't have that part of the process done yet. The only conversation I have had with a candidate is with Tommy. And I've been very straightforward with Tommy. I said, I need your help during these next 3 weeks. And we will be able to spend quality time together. I've never spent quality time with Tommy. I had never spent quality time with Mac in the Caps. I always worked through the hierarchy, through George McPhee. And in fact, the first time I ever really heard Mac's voice was in the interview. And he was not a leading candidate in any way, doing it to be nice. And he had the best interview. And his interview was informed. And so that's all I could tell Tommy. I need your help. And then I will interview you, and you will be a candidate. And your advantage, just you know the organization, you know what's here, and you can take heart in knowing that we listened and took notes in every meeting. And Mac was the best candidate because he was able to sit and tell us, here's what's really good. You have a lot of smart people. You have a lot of good things. Here's where I would disagree with what was happening in the past and what I think you should be doing. And then he told me, stop blogging so much about Alex Ovechkin. You know what? It's good. I appreciate that. So we're open-minded. I have no, if we had some kind of playbook in mind or unicorn in mind, maybe we don't hire Mac, and maybe we don't have a Stanley Cup.
I want to follow up. Was there one more year remaining on Ernie Grunfeld's contract?
I'm not going to talk about deals.
The notion of it being a more collaborative situation, has that changed now that you've had made the switch with the Capitals? And if not, what leads you to want to do that here?
No, I mean, really how management works with ownership is pretty simple. During the off season, on occasion, you'll be asked to sit in on some exit interviews. For the Wizards now, I will sit in on exit interviews. I just talk to the players en masse and thank them for their hard work, and that I wanted to hear from them. Why is the team underachieving? And then you have to develop your plan and what the team needs are and what the budget is. And once you agree on that, the GM, the president of basketball operations, the cap people, they're the ones who are doing the outreach to the players and the agents. I never talk to agents. I never talk to players. I mean, that's what they do. And so, but with the collaboration I'd like to see a little bit more of is if you make it's connecting the dots in a more collaborative way. If you've made a big investment in coaching and a big investment in analytics and a big investment in medical and a big investment in your infrastructure and big investment in the head office, you want to make sure that they're all on the same page. And whenever there's something that's existential like we just faced, you have to say something misaligned. And so that's why we'll have to get involved and just make sure that, management leadership today, one of your big jobs is editing. Making sure that there's so much info and data that you can edit it to get to kind of the right decisions and right place that everyone can agree on. And that didn't happen right now. And so that's a part of what leadership, and these jobs have become really, really difficult. You need someone who's analytic. No, you need someone who's a player's coach. No, you need somebody who has been experienced in you need someone who's savvy in social media. And you need a unicorn. And there aren't like these perfect people out there. There's organizations. And I want to be focused on how we build a great organization. And I have to make that assessment of who's gifted, talented, who has a really good voice. A lot of times in my experience, you find lots of really, really smart people who haven't had the opportunity to speak to you. And so that's why I want to be internally oriented, and we owe that to the organization.
So during your process of that and bringing on kind of outside, more of a non-biased view from the company outside, what's the goal there beyond just the search? Like, where will people be looking? What will you be trying to accomplish from a philosophical or maybe departmental level?
I don't know yet, and I'm not being a wise guy. If I said something, then the organization would feed back to me what I just said. And that's not how great companies are built, right? Because we just live in this world where there's groupthink. And you have to think different. You have to be counterintuitive sometimes. And I think that we hired an internal candidate from the Caps. Trust me, go back and look. The media were not kind to that decision. And so if I were to proffer up, here's what I'm looking for, then, and that's what happens, by the way, in business. You say, well, I want someone who's done this, this, and that, and it wipes out a whole group of people. It's also why diversity, when you do that, is so difficult, right? If you're running a Fortune 500 company and say, well, I want someone who's run a Fortune 500 company, that makes the group of people that you'll bring in much smaller. And all it does is reinforce what's happened in the past. And I would like to do this search in the right way. I'm going to do this with a smile. There is no list, Fred. There's no one who's been targeted. Next question, Mike.
Last question for Mike.
Yeah.
No, it's just,
Did I do that okay? Was that?
from afar, people look at John's not going to come back until that last part of next season, and Brad's got 2 years under contract. And one, do you think you have to almost re-recruit Bradley Beal and put the right people around him in some ways, including John if he's healthy? And two, how do you make a genuine free agent destination where people, big time players, want to come here?
I think that that's pretty apparent, that if you're winning, you attract that. I went to John's house on Sunday and spent some time with him, watching the Kentucky game and just checking on his health. I yesterday spoke to John and Brad. And my belief is that they're are responsible. They understand and we'll do it together. And I don't question their loyalty and their belief. They want to replicate here we did in the NHL. They saw how we committed to young people. Choices, we kept them, we kept the edges and suffering along the way. It's very infrequent when you have you just to the top, you have that, and we've had our setbacks. And reckonings are part of life during the tough times, and so Brad is a high character person. John is a very high character person. And I think they'll be a part of our plan on the go forward.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, thank you.